Tillamook County Democrats website, and you'll get a recording of this meeting. You'll also get a recording of last month's meeting when we had our guest speaker from Vote Forward and Swing Left. So you can see that. So we're going to launch right into Senator Jeff Merkley. I am so thrilled to have you here. I met Jeff in 1993, I think, when we overlapped briefly in the Oregon legislature. And I am so proud of the kind of representation you've been giving to Oregon all these years. Certainly been watching all your efforts and just am very thankful. Yes, let's give him an applause here, a quiet applause. So we'll just turn it over to you for a presentation. We gave you some ideas of things to talk about, and then we'll have some time for questions. So over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Bev. Thank you for everyone for being on the battlefield. When there are dark and dangerous times in a republic, moving forward out of those times requires intense engagement, and you all are intensely engaged, and it's so important. This is a huge moment for the United States to pivot from the Trump era. I came to politics as a former policy analyst for Congress, working on strategic nuclear policy, and there'd be complicated memos with all sorts of analysis behind it. And I sometimes find that you just have to boil things down away from all those complicated memos to a simple understanding of the challenge. And so my mantra for these next few days, and a few days, I mean, we're talking 3 months, is dump Trump, ditch Mitch, save America. So 6 words to keep focused on what we have to do. And what it takes to change the direction of things is personal connection with voters. When I first ran for the Oregon House, I was running against 2 former state representatives and the head of the water district. And they were busy pounding in lawn signs on every avenue, and everyone I knew said, Jeff, you're losing. We see your opponent's signs everywhere and you don't have signs up. Well, I didn't have signs on the major streets at all, so I didn't put them up there, but I was knocking on door after door. And I was recalling a few years earlier, I had been in a session for candidates that we said, the most effective thing you can do is directly talk to a voter, directly contact a voter. And it's free. And I thought, oh, that's terrific. I like that. And the next most effective thing you can do is talk to people on the way into a town meeting and out. That's free. The next thing is talking to them on the phone, and that's free. And having your volunteers do the same. So here we are. We cannot proceed to vote in our vote by mail election and then fly to key states to help out in the Senate races and in Biden's race. But we can help by doing what you're all doing. And this whole Oregon Big Send component of Vote Forward is just a beautiful thing. And Bev, thank you so much for working to help organize it. This is going to matter a great deal. When somebody gets a letter with a personal note on it, it makes them think very differently than just manufactured materials that come in the mail, on the internet, on the television, and so forth. I understand that you're all focusing on Georgia, Iowa, and North Carolina. And those are 3 of the critical states. And so I thought I would share a little bit about each one. Let me start with Iowa. So Teresa Greenfield is running in Iowa. And Teresa had run in House District number 3 and discovered during the primary 2 years ago that a volunteer had violated the signature collection system, and she immediately announced publicly she was withdrawing from the race because of this mistake by a team member. And it was just an act of real integrity. In that cycle, they started with 3 Republican seats out of the 4 in Iowa and 1 Democratic seat. And they finished with 3 blue seats and 1 red seat. So we picked up 2 there, which tells you how purple Iowa is. Very unlikely either party is going to hold all 4 seats, but we have excellent candidates running in each of the 4 seats, which will help in Iowa. Teresa is doing an excellent job, and it's a toss-up. I thought I'd share with you all. I asked my team to send me some of the recent polling, and so the last three major polls by Monmouth, Des Moines Register, and PPP were, and let me get it here, 45 to 44.7, so a third of a percent distance. 47 to 48 favoring Ernst, a 1%. Oh, I see that 45 to 44.7 was the average. So 47 to 48, 46 to 43, and 42 to 43. In other words, it's an absolute toss-up. So being engaged on this race is a huge opportunity to affect the outcome. And I'm just very impressed by her. I've had a lot of contact with her. I've been raising money for, and I think she'll be a great senator. But we have to get her across the finish line. And then let's turn to North Carolina. So North Carolina, another purple state. When I was running 12 years ago, Kay Hagan was running in North Carolina, and both of us were against well-established incumbents. It was Gordon Smith in Oregon, and it was Elizabeth Dole in North Carolina. And Kay was always 5 points ahead of me. If I had 20%, she had 25. If I had 30, she had 35. If I had 40, she had 45. And I would just call her up and encourage her and say, I just want to be you, 5 points ahead of where I am. And here in Oregon, it was like an arrow. The polling was like an arrow aimed at election day. Gordon Smith started out at 47. He finished about 47. I started out at about 15 and finished a percent ahead of, actually 3 points ahead of him. But if the vote had been 2 weeks earlier, it might not have happened. And if there hadn't been a wave of citizen engagement and direct contact, probably wouldn't have made that extra 3%. And so North Carolina does better for the Democrats in Senate races that are in a presidential year. 12 years ago was a presidential year. 6 years ago was not. And Kay Hagan was beaten, and she was just barely beaten in a very strong 2014 year. She was just Tom Tillis just barely beat her. And there was tremendous Citizens United dark money put up against her. To give you some sense of that, 2014 is the year after Citizens United unleashed the massive amount of fossil fuel money. And they they targeted Oregon, but not as intensely as they targeted North Carolina. So now we're back in a presidential cycle. We have a strong candidate. And right now, we're ahead. Tom Tillis is underwater, meaning he is not well liked in his state. He has a 34% approval rating. That's pretty low going into re-election. And to share with you all the last couple polls in North Carolina. Let's see, we've got 48-39 plus 9 for Cal Cunningham, so our candidate. We have 52-40 plus 12 for our candidate, 50-41 plus 9, and 47-39 plus 8. Well, that's an incredible position to be in. But there's enormous ad time that's been purchased by the dark money. They are going to beat the bejeebers out of Cal Cunningham. But he's holding up pretty well right now, and everything that you do in that personal voter contact is going to help resist this onslaught of Citizens United money, this dark money, all negative, nasty attack ads of every part. By the way, he's someone who, after 9/11, decided that he felt strongly, and he got engaged and volunteered to join the Army Reserves. He was deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he interrupted his life for what he felt was a important mission to help our nation against terrorism. And while I have strong views about us going off track in those nations, I admire the fact that he put the public ahead of his personal life, and that resonates for people. So then let's turn to Georgia. And David Perdue is serving. He was elected 6 years ago. And Georgia has been becoming more and more purple. In the last race statewide for governor, the Secretary of State who was running for governor sat on thousands of voter registration forms to basically bias the outcome, to try to prevent people from voting in Democratic strongholds. And he won the governorship, but this is a type of voter manipulation that the Republicans are deeply engaged in. I believe if you embrace the vision of our Constitution, the spirit of what it means to be a democratic republic, you believe in voter engagement, voter empowerment, not working as hard as you can to prevent people from voting. But the Republicans are deeply, deeply committed to this. And I must say, ever since the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, we've been seeing every trick in the book, limiting the number of polling places, understaffing the polling places, changing the location of the polling places, telling people the election was the previous week, you name it. It just means we have to win by large margins to make sure we win, so that these shenanigans don't succeed. And then as soon as we have a majority in both houses, we need to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Well, what a great deal it would be for Georgia, which is home to John Lewis, who had fought for voting rights and stood there on the Edmund Pettus Bridge and had his skull broken open by the Alabama State Police. How much it would really be powerful for Georgia to send us the majority vote that allows us to pass the For the People Act that takes on gerrymandering and voter suppression and dark money. So in this race, Perdue, the incumbent, is still polling ahead, but it's single digits. So the last four polls were 45-43, 2 points, 50-43, 7 points, 48-43, 5 points, and 45-42, 3 points. When I was 3 months out 12 years ago, I was probably still about 15 points down. So this is a real race, and it's a great one for you all to target with this direct voter contact. There is a second race in Georgia, and this is is a completely different style. This is a replacement to replace Johnny Isakson, who retired, and this is a jungle primary. And so it means that it's like California. Whoever the top two will go on to a ballot that won't be conducted, an election that won't be conducted until January. There's a couple Democrats in that race, and one is Reverend Warlock, who is from he's the pastor of the same church as Martin Luther King was, Ebenezer Baptist Church, and we'll see how this all develops, but we are hoping that he will be one of the two that will go to the runoff. There's no way we're going to take the top two positions. So we're going to have to have a Democrat in the top two and then win in January. And if it comes, that January race could end up deciding who controls the Senate, which will be enormously intense. So we have to go into it really strong. And so in both of those two Georgia races, it's really helpful to build momentum. I really feel like the governor there is illegitimate after the shenanigans he pulled as Secretary of State. But in the end, he holds the office. Let's not let similar strategies allow them to win either one of those two Senate races. So I'm just going to stop there. Those are the as much as I can tell you about those three. I should note that we have 47 Democratic senators and independents currently who caucus with the Dems. You need 51 to have a majority. Alabama is going to be very tough to hold. We're trying, but it's definitely a lean, strongly R seat. So we need to win at least, to be sure of holding majority, we need to win at least five seats. Thank you. And thank you, Beth. Thank you, everyone.
Great. So we want to have some questions, but I want to remind people, if you came on a little later, that in the chat feature, please introduce yourself and ask any questions that you have of Jeff. Please fill in some questions, and then Betsy will summarize them and ask the questions. But the first question we have for you is going to come from Pat Himes. Pat is on our leadership team, and she represents the Tillamook area. I represent Cape Mears, Oceanside, and Netarts. And Betsy represents Manzanita, Nehalem, and Wheeler. And Georgiana, who's not on here, represents Rockaway, Bay City, and something else. And Allison is South County. So that's our 5 team. And I just wanted to introduce us to you because we're the ones that keep in contact with you regionally. So Pat, would you ask the first question? And please come up with
Sure. Thanks. I'm really concerned, as many people are, about the U.S. Postal Service. I recently had a birthday, and it took 3.5 weeks for a birthday card to arrive from Colorado, which makes me really nervous about the ballots. And I just read an article suggesting that that there is a rumor that the Postal Service is planning to almost triple the cost of mailing ballots, from the bulk rate of 20 cents to 55 cents. And that there's a move to try to compel the Office of Management and Budget to release funds. Oops, sorry, my cat wanted to ask a question also. To release funds to restore service and to prevent Trump from sabotaging the election. So could you speak to that? I know a lot of people are worried about what's been going on with the Postal Service.
Fears are well founded. The president has an operative in place as Postmaster General who is not at all above manipulating the post office to help Trump win election. I was thinking back to my first run, which was a year in which both parties had pushed folks to sign up for absentee ballots. And the result was 50% of the people voted by mail, but the mail was not a problem. Then the following cycle was full vote by mail, and the mail wasn't a problem. But it becomes a problem if you have leadership in the post office that's trying to make it an issue. And one of the things we've been concerned about is postmarking of ballots, because we have found that in some places they haven't been postmarking ballots, and therefore when the ballots arrive in states that say it must be postmarked by election day, those ballots are considered illegitimate. And it's more likely urban areas would have postmarking problems overrun the system, if you will. Anyway, it's totally unacceptable, and we know we have a president who will manipulate the hell out of things. And we know we have a Republican Party that is absolutely committed to voter suppression and intimidation and manipulation. So in the negotiations right now for Corona 4 bill is funding for the post office. I think we will have the funding. My concern is what happens after it gets funded, which is you've then got Trump's management team in charge, and they can just kind of mess it up deliberately. They may not take the funds and do the things that need to be done to prepare for that load of mail during that time period. We've seen, I'll give you a recent example. I pushed really hard for an amendment that required a nationwide plan for testing to be in the last Corona bill. Okay, so here it is, legislation. You must have a national plan for testing. The Trump administration wrote the plan, published the plan, and the plan said, our plan is to have the states figure it out. mean, you can't take the executive branch and kind of force them to do things. You can fund them, you can tell them to, and then they can just not do it. But then it's too late. So we're trying to create as much publicity and illegitimacy around this tactic of Trump's. Hopefully it will backfire. We did see voter intimidation in Wisconsin backfire. It really made people aware. The other side is rigging it. We have to turn out. And they did turn out in Wisconsin for that special election they held. So we'll get the money to the post office, and there'll probably be some legal sideboards about what they're supposed to do, but I think we're still going to have to worry about it. I'd like to be more reassuring, but I can't be.
Yeah, I think we're all concerned about that. I want to note that after Senator Merkley's done, Erica Goldman, our Northwest Regional Organizer at Swing Left, will talk about what Vote Forward is doing in terms of mailing and responding to the different situations in each state. So we'll get more detail on this. I want to remind people to introduce yourself in the chat and ask any questions there, and Betsy will take them. And then the next question is from Allison from our core team. Allison, please ask your question.
Yes, Senator Merkley, I'm just, I'm fantasizing about the Dems taking back the Senate, and I want to know what's going to be the first order of business.
Well, I hope the first order of the business is the For the People Act. Our election system is deeply corrupted by gerrymandering, voter suppression, and dark money. And the act takes on all three of those. Gerrymandering probably accounts, best estimate, about a 20-vote swing in the House. That is, the Dems would have 20 more seats than they currently have if you had independent commissions required across the country for redistricting. A robust voting rights bill would be part of it. While that could be undertaken independently, the John Lewis Act, hopefully it will be part of this bundle because it's so hard to move things in the Senate. You want to move things together. And then the dark money, we can't reverse Citizens United, but we can shine a light on the money with full disclosure, which Republicans hate. They do not, their big donors want to operate in secret. So it affects how much they give and what their strategy is if you shine a light on it. It also means that corporations would be in a very different spot in terms of the way that they jump in with their money. So here's the problem. The Senate is rigged. And by that I mean that court packing and tax cuts for the wealthy are a simple majority, but policy on elections, healthcare, housing, education, policy on labor, on equality of opportunity for the LGBTQ community, and on climate, those are all supermajority. So our priorities have a higher obstacle. I am immersed in this because this filibuster is a complete corruption of the way the Senate was designed. We had an initial constitution in America called the Articles of Confederation. It was ratified in 1981, and it required a supermajority to get anything done, and they could get nothing done. So Hamilton and Madison raged against the supermajority, and there's no legislative supermajority in what we think of as our current Constitution, the 1787 Constitution. And yet a bunch of senators, Democratic senators, somehow think this was how the Senate was designed, that this was what makes the Senate the Senate. And it's not true. The supermajority was hardly ever used in our first 150 years. There's only 8 instances that a bill was talked to death when there was a deadline in that entire period. So I am immersed in this battle because we have to convince a Democratic majority to pass the For the People Act without allowing it to die to a McConnell veto. Why should Mitch McConnell, powered by these powerful special interests, be able to undermine fair voting, fair elections for America? We have what I'm telling my colleagues, we have a duty to defend the Constitution. That defends the right to vote. And we cannot let Mitch McConnell veto that. So that's the first thing that needs to be up. And it will determine how we handle that, whether we're going to get anything else done. Because if we don't change the corruption of the Senate, then we are going to fail on most of our policy due to the McConnell veto, or otherwise known as a filibuster or supermajority. So that's, but there is a list of about a dozen other high priority bills that will follow, but all those will be easier if we proceed to say we're going to let McConnell block them.
Yeah, wow. Thank you.
Thank you. So Betsy, do you want to ask a question that's come up in the chat? You have to unmute yourself.
Here we go. Yeah. Hello, Senator Merkley. You are amazing. I don't know how you can do it. You have amazing stamina. It must be awful. But anyway, here's the first question. It's talking about the agreement on the stimulus. Will there be an agreement on the stimulus package, and will the Democrats be able to keep in there the $600 for unemployment benefits and vote by mail and election security provisions?
So
And then there's another question after that.
okay, well, I'll take that one first. And so the negotiations are not going well. McConnell has bailed. The House Republican leader has bailed. So it's really a negotiation between the president's chief of staff, the Treasury Secretary, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer for the House and Senate. Given how important this bill is to taking on the pandemic and the economic implosion, why would the Republican leadership bail from being at the table? I mean, empty seats.
Awesome.
The answer for McConnell is that, so I can say, the Senate Republicans are divided. A group of them really want a robust package because they want to take on the pandemic, they want to take on the economic implosion, and they're up for election. And then there's a larger proportion of the caucus is like, we're not up for election and we want to suddenly be fiscal conservatives. We gave away $2 trillion to the richest Americans in our 2017 Tax Act. And now we have to pretend we're fiscal conservatives and not run up the debt further. So given that, McConnell, rather than kind of be beaten up by one side or the other, one, his group of candidates who are running, and second, the majority of his caucus is just like, hands off, I'll let the president's team figure it out. Thank you very much, while I get out of the line of fire, which is a cowardly way for any leader to proceed, but that's what he's doing. He's also up for election. There's another reason he doesn't want to be in the decision-making line or negotiating line. Just last night, Mark Meadows, the chief of staff, said if we don't reach agreement on overall number, they're leaving the negotiations. Well, we are now today 12 weeks, 3 months since the House passed the HEROES bill. And the Republicans are treating this like, no, it's just any other end of the week, any other Thursday or Friday. What's the big rush? We've waited 12 weeks. We can wait 13 weeks. We can wait 14 weeks. They are totally failing America when we're facing the worst pandemic of 100 years, and we're facing the worst economic implosion since the Great Depression. And the $600 per week has just been turned off. The moratorium on evictions has just been turned off. And if we don't reach a bill, they're not going to get turned back on, and it's going to create chaos in between. I think the odds is we're going to win on the $600. I think we'll win on that. On the vote by mail, I think we will lose. They fear, the Republicans fear vote by mail. I think we'll get some funding for states that voluntarily want to enhance their absentee voting system, but we will not get a guaranteed, no excuse absentee ballot or vote by mail, I don't think. In my crystal ball, they are terrified of undermining their ability to manipulate the polling places. And then I think there was a third thing on your list there. What was the third?
Yeah, that was, unemployment, vote by mail, and election security provisions.
Election security. Yeah, I think there'll be some election security, but we have an implementation problem. I mean, there is a huge, so around the nation, hackers are looking for different causes, or are looking at how easy it was to affect America in a whole variety of ways to weigh in with fake information, to hack and get information, release it, etc. So it's not just Russia, it's a whole series of problems. Every member of Congress their accounts are being besieged by hackers around the world. I don't think that there's not really evidence that they're going to be able to flip voting numbers. But in terms of interfering with what people are hearing and kind of exacerbating the tensions within the American citizenry, there's going to be a lot of foreign shenanigans going on, and there will be money for different forms of election security. But we really, I mean, quite frankly, we have to get rid of the computerized voting stations. We need a paper ballot that can be recounted, no hanging chads, Oregon style. With the things that we go through, I mean, we test our machines to make sure the software in the machines has not been messed with. We run a pile of ballots through and see if the count matches what we know is in the pile. We do a lot of things. We need America to adopt. We have the best voting system in the country. We need America to adopt it. And Senator Wyden's a leader on this. I'm full partner with him on it, and we're going to keep pushing. But a truly competent voting system is not in the interest of the Republicans, and they're fighting it all the way.
That's right. Yes. Well, I have one more question. And by the way, the previous question was submitted by Laura Allen, and this one is submitted by Ketzel Levine. And this is her question: can anything be legally done to reverse the decision to shorten the census deadline?
Yes, and we're trying to get it into this bill.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd been advocating for extending it. I don't think any member of our caucus ever envisioned it being shortened. I mean, this is another invention for voter manipulation. We know the count is low in a certain number of communities across the country in ways that advantage the Republicans, and so they're trying to lock that in. And the fact that we haven't been able to go door to door in the same way normally would has hurt the count for Democrats. The intimidation of Latino voters has hurt the legitimate count, and they're trying to lock that in. So we're trying to block the lock in this coming bill.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate you being here, and I know you have other things you need to do, so we excuse you from the rest of the meeting. But thanks so much for making time for us. It really inspires us all to keep writing letters and to make a difference in the elections. We're so pleased to have you.
Thank you all for being on this election battlefield and for writing these letters, these personal contact. And it's going to make a big difference. We're going to have some really close races. We've got to win those close races. You're helping to make that happen. So well done. And I have put out emails inviting people to join the whole Oregon Big Send effort. I think we've had 700 volunteers sign up from those emails. I don't know if Dave Chase is on the line. He could make sure I have that number right.
Yep, that's right. We're just over 700 in our first week, so we're trying to gather some more people to join the effort.
Dave, maybe you could explain Oregon Big Send, because I'm not sure everybody on the line here knows what that is. Just briefly tell people what we've got going here, and that Senator Merkley is the first first campaign to be part of Vote Forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bev came to us with the great idea to help engage some of our network in this letter writing campaign. I know a lot of folks on this call are already doing it. And so we, actually, I shouldn't say we, Bev came up with the name Oregon Big Send as a way to sort of build an umbrella to gather all of Team Merkley together to help write letters to swing voters across the country. And we've got a large network of folks who have been big supporters of Jeff for many years, and we're just trying to engage them in this effort. Yeah, we launched it about a week ago, got 700 folks. We're joining the Big Swing Left weekly Saturday call tomorrow with Erica, which I'm told is pretty big. I think there's going to be 400 folks already signed up for that call. to help sort of train these folks, get them engaged, get them writing letters early, and then hopefully often now in election. So we're really excited about it and think it's a great way to help win these races as well as engage some folks in the election who otherwise might not be able to.
Great.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Bev. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks to Senator Merkley. We really
Thank you,
appreciate
Senator Merkley.
that.
We love you.
Next, we have Erica, and let's see, Erica, you're there someplace, right? And Erica Goldman is our Northwest Regional Organizers for Swing Left. So she's the person we go to when we have any kind of questions or whatever about Tillamook Vote Forward and how we do things. She's incredibly responsive and very knowledgeable about what's going on. So I'm going to turn it over to her. I wanted her to talk more about what's going on with Vote Forward in the mailing, because I think the biggest question I'm getting now is October 27th a good day to mail the ballots? Is it going to get to people in time, etc.? So go ahead, Erica.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bev. And again, thank you sincerely to Bev and Pat and the whole team, to all of you for all of the work that you're doing to build this tremendous stockpile of letters and messages to voters, and leading the way by bringing the effort to Senator Merkley so that he can put his energy behind it and make it even bigger. Dave, I hadn't heard that 700 figure yet. That's pretty cool. But I know that USPS is absolutely on everyone's mind. I've been hearing that question a lot. I know that folks are giving that feedback to Vote Forward as well. And it's absolutely on the minds of the leadership team at Vote Forward. The short answer to Bev's question, is October 27th still the best mail date? I think it's pretty safe to say no. That date was chosen a year and a half ago based on the research that that Vote Forward had done up until that point, which shows that the letters are most effective when they arrive close to Election Day. That said, since then, Vote Forward has been in their, true to their data-driven analytical form. They are doing research and analysis and tracking to figure out what the new date should be. The plan is to announce the date once, to do the analysis, make the plan, and announce the date once, so that there's no confusion about it. And once we have that date, we will be shouting it from the rooftops. It'll be, wallpapered everywhere from Vote Forward through Swing Left. We'll have to work through the Oregon Big Send as well to get the new date out there. And what Vote Forward is doing is a number of things just to share with you to get a better idea of what the right mail date is. One is there's a series of test campaigns happening right now, which some of you may have participated in, writing letters to Florida voters for the Florida primary. So that is underway. The primary is coming up, I think it's on the 18th, so there will be data collection after that. There's also an exercise incorporating volunteers to do some measurement around mail times. Pat, I was somewhat alarmed to hear how long it took to get your birthday card, and that's exactly the type of exercise that Vote Forward is doing to kind of get a sense of what those times are. And in addition, doing some diligent tracking of practices around mail-in voting to get an idea of how these are interacting. So this includes things like availability of election day ballot drop boxes, expected turnout by voting method, early voting availability, voter preferences and lessons learned from the primaries, federal and state lawsuits that may affect absentee ballots and absentee deadlines and policies, and other evolving electoral processes. So as I'm sure you all can imagine, there's a lot of moving parts here, and I am grateful that Vote Forward is as data-driven and analytical as they are about about getting lots of inputs so that they can make a good judgment about what that mail date will be. And again, once we have it, I promise you, you will hear it. You will find out what that mail date is.
If you have questions for Erica, please put them in the chat right now. And I have a question to start while people come up with questions. Is it likely or possible that we may be sending ballot or our letters to different states at different dates, depending on the situation in that state?
I wouldn't rule that out. And that's a great question because the extent to which folks are writing, and this was probably where you were going, if you are writing to multiple states, as you're writing them, it might make sense to keep your letter piles divided by state so that if there does end up being different dates, mail dates per state, you'll kind of be ready to go with those.
Well, I'm very pleased to tell you that Tillamook Vote For, we stockpile all our letters together and they're already separated by state. We've been thinking
Nice.
ahead.
Yep, think it ahead for sure.
So does anybody else have a question? Put it in the chat right away now. You know, I too share Erica's sense that Vote Forward is very sophisticated in its analysis, and I trust that when they tell us when to send the letters, that it will make sense to do it then. We can't control the post office. I am as concerned as everybody from what Senator Merkley said about the post office, but I will just have to do the best we can with this situation as it is. So I don't see any questions for Erica, so I'm going to move on. Thank you very much, Erica. We appreciate all your support you give us. It makes a huge difference. I want to give a little update on Tillamook Vote Forward to everyone. First of all, just to remind people sort of the relationship here, Tillamook Vote Forward is actually a local swing left affiliate, but we're called Tillamook Vote Forward, and we primarily work with Vote Forward to write letters. That's kind of our strategy. We have about 100 people on our list now. Our goal is to have 200 people on our list with, I think we said 80% of people writing. So we have some metrics that our leadership team is trying to follow. The big send, which is what Vote Forward calls its goal of 10 million letters going out, they have nearly, I think they have at least 3 million right now. So, and they're feeling very positive about where they're going. And they've even added some states on to write to because they're running out of names. So they added some more states that are in play. And you may have gotten something about that. Tillamook Vote Forward's goal for our county is 20,000 letters by October. And we have 8,600 right now. Stockpiled. So we're doing pretty good, but we need to crank it up more. We need more writers and more letters. What we do is every month we have the big pickup for the big send, and the team that I introduced you to collects letters in their area and then gets them to me, and then we stamp them if they need stamps, and then we put them in paper bags with the state on named labeled on each one. I think from what I've been hearing, I think that on our August 14th to 16th pickup, we're going to probably get at least 3,000, maybe 4,000 more letters. There's some people out there cranking away, which is one. Kathy Kroll just, I think she's on the call here. She just emailed me, and I think she's going to have 1,000. And we know Andrea will always have 1,000 at least. So it's great. So just keep it up. We want to remind you that we have adopted, as Senator Merkley said, we have adopted the states of Iowa, North Carolina, and Georgia. And the point of this is that Vote Forward wants to make sure that all areas get covered and that the priority races get covered. So they asked us to choose some states, and what we did is we chose states that Senator Merkley was working on. And so those are our 3 states. If you don't like those states for some reason, or you have a particular affiliation or affection for another state that's on the list, go for it. We need letters. That's the bottom line, is keep writing letters. So you can do that. Also, I think I got this email yesterday. I suspect everybody on the Vote Forward got this letter, but they have added Montana, Nevada, and New Hampshire. Those aren't the super states for swing left, but they are states in which the White House and the Senate campaigns are important. So if you want to do those states, those will appear. if you have, some people haven't noticed that there's a little button on your page where you can download letters. It says switch campaigns. That's how you get to the other campaigns. If there are, it could be that they've already used up all the names in Iowa, so do North Carolina. But then if you go back next week, they may have more for Iowa. So they keep replenishing the names. But obviously this is going very well because they are running out sometimes. If you haven't started writing, please contact me or any of the members of our core team to overcome any barrier. We will provide envelopes. We will print letters for you. If you can't afford stamps, we will get the stamps. We'll put stamps on them. We urge people to pay for your stamps up to your limit and then keep writing. We don't want that to be a barrier. It's not too early to write and it's not too late, so get going. We really want to have a lot of letters by October. So if you have any questions for me, you can slip them into the chat here.
Hey, Beth.
Yes.
Betsy, there's one question, a very creative question. It's from Pat
Okay.
Heim. And she was wondering if there's any thought about actually driving letters to Iowa. It may be faster than using the Postal Service.
Well, I'm going to refer that to Erica. And I bet she doesn't know the answer to that, but we should see if Vote Forward thinks that's a good strategy.
I have a bit of an answer,
Okay.
and thank you for raising that. I was typing the answer in the chat. It's easier to share verbally.
Mm-hmm.
So Vote Forward actually, as part of this analysis, is developing emergency level contingency plans. I can't speak to the specifics of what those are. I'm not privy to them, but there is some emergency planning happening. From a swing left standpoint, well, I'll say this. From a swing left standpoint, our overall position during the pandemic is that we feel that volunteer health and safety is top priority. So we are not asking anyone to do anything that involves, venturing out into the world and potentially risking that safety. That said, if there are volunteers that are inspired to take road trips or do other activities, I'm closing my ears. So anyone wants to do a road trip to Iowa, I'll see you on Zoom, and I don't know where you're Zooming in from.
Okay, well, that's something we can talk about as things develop over the next couple months. Let's see, my husband's going to get that phone call. Thank you.
One other question.
Yeah.
From Diane Colcord. And this is the way it's worded. Still only one ask, in parentheses, for stamps. I already got the 600.
Yes, I actually have checked in on this. I think you can only get 600, but what Erica told me is that for those of you who don't know, when you've written 300 letters, you qualify as a super volunteer and you can apply to get 600 stamps. That's a lot of how we've been able to stamp letters that if people can't afford, they give us the 600 and we've been able to cover, but we need more stamps. I'll talk about that in a minute. But this was a pilot project, and apparently at the end of the month, the real thing's going to happen. So I'll inform everybody what their new procedure, if they have new procedures, or if they're going to let people get more than 600 stamps, or what the deal is going to be. But meanwhile, everyone should strive to get to 300 letters and apply for the stamps under the current program. And tell me if you do that so that we can track what's going on with the super volunteers and with the stamps. I do see another comment here about most of ours have been to Texas. Yeah, we have a lot of letters to Texas. Most of our letters are to Texas, frankly. So, because we just switched over to these priority states just in the last week. So, it really doesn't matter. But we're trying to now build up our Georgia, North Carolina, and Iowa letters.
Here's a couple other ones. Okay, Jonathan and I are taking a road trip to Nebraska, and this is from Tracy and Jonathan. In November for a wedding, would gladly transport letters. Hey.
Okay, well, let's keep this in mind. Actually, if people are going somewhere, email me and we'll keep track of that, and maybe we'll do that. We'll see how it works. Some people are going on road trips to visit their grandkids. I know several people are trying to do that. And if they're going to go through a state where we need them, they can just drop off the letters at the post office. Yeah, great. Okay.
Okay, and then another question from Naranyan. Would it
Right.
help? Yeah, would it help to know the voting procedures in the states we're writing to? For example, if folks can have the option to get a ballot and deliver it to a pickup spot, that might be a suggestion to put in our letters.
Erica, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, thank you for asking. That's a really great question. And I know that it's tempting. I know how much all of us want to make it as easy as possible for these voters to actually get out and vote. We're actually asking that writers not put specific voting procedures in the letters because the procedures around voting are changing frequently, especially in the states that we're targeting, and things could change in terms of procedures, in terms of lawsuits and so forth. Things could change between now and as we get closer to Election Day. And one thing we absolutely want to avoid is putting anything in these letters that has any chance of being inaccurate or misleading or any, by the time the letters get received. So the letters are designed to be general get out the vote messages. They apply whether the person is mailing in a ballot or delivering it to a drop box or even delivering it in person to a polling location. However they vote, the letters are relevant, and we know that the messages are effective because we've used them in many campaigns before. So we ask folks to stick with the core messages that we've been using the whole way along. And if you want to reach out to voters and talk to them about specifics for the mechanics around voting, I'd be happy to hook you up with opportunities to make phone calls as we get closer to the election and have those conversations when we have more detail on what voting will look like.
Good question. I'm sure people have that question. So I don't see any more questions.
Yeah.
So let me just do some summary here. So like I said, try to be a super volunteer and request the money for the stamps. The other thing we want is more people writing. So please think about 1 or 2 friends, each one reach one. If each person on this call came up with 1 friend, that would be 30 people that we would have writing, which would be a huge increase. So if you know people who live in Tillamook County who you think might be interested, please contact them and then refer them to me, and then I'll take it from there. But I'd like to know they at least are interested. I don't want to be the first contact. It should be from you because you're their friend. But do take that seriously, because the more people we have, the more letters we get. It's just, it's the math. Let's see. The next thing is our next monthly gathering is September 4th. We're very open to hearing any suggestions of what you would like us to talk about there. So if you want to send me an email or put it in the chat right now to say what kinds of things you would like to have. We've had someone from Swing Left. We had someone really talking about Vote Forward from Swing Left. We had Senator Merkley. If there's something else, and the goal would be, what would stimulate you and your friends and the people that are on this call to write more letters? What will do it? So tell us what you think might help stimulate you or interest you. So that is it. Is there any last minute thing you want to throw into the chat? Okay, let's see. There's some things coming up here. See, there will be a call campaign. Will there be a call campaign? Phone calls, if you're interested in phone calls. Oh, Erica responded there. If you're interested in phone calls, get hold of Erica and she can get you plugged in to that. And you can get that through me if you need that. Let's see. And okay, we have Dave's leaving here. I talked to Jeff right before we hopped on. He's really jazzed about the work you're all doing. He said it was a big lift after a long and ugly week in DC. Keep up the good work. And I loved his let's dump Trump, ditch Mitch, and save America. Yes, I think that's a good finale there. So I'll see you next week. Keep writing, and make sure you contact your area leader to get letters to them on August 14th to 16th to build up our stockpile. Okay, bye.
Thanks for all you do, Bev.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.